The wind howled through the dense forest, rattling the bare branches like skeletal fingers scratching at the night sky. My partner, Daniel, and I had been tracking something unusual for the past 3 nights, strange sightings reported by locals near the abandoned mining town deep in the mountains. They spoke of tall, shadowy figures lurking at the edge of their properties, figures that moved unnaturally, too fast, too silent. We dismissed it at first, but curiosity got the better of us. We set up camp near an old logging road, armed with night vision cameras and rifles. The first night was uneventful, save for the unsettling silence that blanketed the area. There were no crickets, no owls, just the eerie whisper of the wind. It felt wrong, too still, too empty. The second night, things started to change. Around midnight, Daniel shook me awake, his face pale. "There's something out there," he whispered. I grabbed my rifle and scanned the trees with my night vision. At first, nothing, just the endless black silhouettes of the trees swaying. Then, movement. A figure standing just beyond the clearing. It was tall, almost 7 feet, with elongated limbs. It didn't move like a person. More like a puppet, jerking unnaturally between the trees. Daniel took a deep breath and whispered, "Should we call out?" I shook my head. Whatever that was, it wasn't someone lost in the woods. We watched for what felt like hours before it finally faded into the darkness. We didn't sleep for the rest of the night. On the third night, we decided to venture deeper. We moved cautiously, flashlights off, relying only on the moonlight to guide us. The deeper we went, the stronger the feeling of being watched became. Then, we saw them. 3 figures stood in a loose circle ahead, facing inward. They were motionless, their heads tilted at an unnatural angle. Their skin looked gray under the moonlight, their limbs impossibly thin. I lifted my rifle and peered through the scope. My stomach turned. Their eyes, they were completely black, hollow pits that seemed to pull in the light around them. A twig snapped behind us. Daniel and I spun around, rifles raised, but there was nothing. Just trees. When we turned back, the figures were gone. A low whisper drifted through the air, though we couldn't place where it was coming from. It wasn't in English. It wasn't in any language I recognized. It felt wrong, unnatural, like something crawling under my skin. The whispering grew louder, surrounding us, coming from every direction. Then, the footsteps began. Dozens of them. Soft, deliberate, circling us in the dark. Daniel grabbed my arm. "We have to go. Now." We turned and ran, crashing through the underbrush. The whispering followed us, rising to an unbearable pitch. The ground felt unstable beneath my feet as if it were shifting. My lungs burned, but I didn't dare stop. I could feel something behind me, so close I could almost feel its breath on my neck. We broke through the treeline and stumbled back into our camp. The whispering stopped. The night was still again, the eerie silence returning. But something was wrong. Our gear was gone. Our tent, our supplies, everything had been stripped away as if we had never been there. Daniel swore under his breath, his voice shaking. "We need to leave." We sprinted to the truck and peeled out of there, not stopping until we reached the main road. When we finally pulled over, we sat in silence, trying to process what had just happened. That was 6 months ago. We never spoke about it again, never went back. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I wake up with that whisper still echoing in my ears. And I swear, just beyond my window, I see figures standing in the dark, watching, waiting.